Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone. We are from Indonesia. I'm Yani, and then this is my colleague Silih Warni. We are from University of Muhammadiyah Professor Dr. Hamka, Jakarta, Indonesia. Well, in this opportunity, we would like to share the result of our research that's related to the learner autonomy, which was discussed from the teacher's point of view. This research was funded by Ministry of Research and Technology of Republik Indonesia or Kemenristek Dikti Indonesia. Our presentation will be divided into four parts. The first is the background of the research that is followed by the research questions, and then the research methodology. Afterwards, the research findings, and then the last is the conclusion. Well, my colleague Silih Warni will explain more about our research. Please, Pak Silih.
Thank you, Ms. Yani. I'd like to start with the background of our study. Our study was conducted as part of uh, our concern in enhancing or in improving the effectiveness of English learning in Indonesian schools, as there are various factors that can contribute to the effectiveness of English learning. We are concerned with the concept of learner autonomy, as the students' capacity has been proved as a prominent factor that can help students in their learning success. Then, considering the fact that learner autonomy is helpful in the students' learning success, then there is an urgency for teachers to integrate this capacity, to integrate this concept into their teaching in the classroom. In relation to that, then our research questions were concerned with these four aspects. The first one, what does learner autonomy mean to EFL teachers, secondary schools in Jakarta? Then how desirable and feasible do the EFL teachers feel about promoting learner autonomy? And then to what extent do they actually promote learner autonomy? And the last question is, what challenges do they face in supporting their students to become more autonomous? In order to respond to these research questions, then we collected the data with uh, the subjects or with the participants of 106 English as a foreign language teachers teaching in secondary schools in Jakarta. Then we applied instruments of questionnaires and interviews in order to collect the data. The questionnaires were adapted from both concerning the aspects of learner autonomy concepts. Then the interview was done also to gain in-depth perception from the teachers about their understandings of learner autonomy. Then the technique of data analysis, in relation to the quantitative data from questionnaires, it was analyzed descriptively to see the frequency counts and percentages. Then item measure analysis using RAS model was done to compare the degrees of items, particularly in relation to the feasibility and desirability for fostering learner autonomy from students' perspectives. Then the qualitative data from the open questionnaires responses and the interview were analyzed thematically. The data analysis of the study result in the findings that I'd like to share here. The first finding is related to the teacher's perceptions about what autonomy means for them. In perceiving the the understandings of autonomy, students participants uh, responded to the interviews, and all the components of autonomy are categorized into four aspects or four components, including psychological aspects of autonomy, sociocultural aspects of autonomy, then political aspects of autonomy, and technical aspects of autonomy. As can be seen in the slides, each aspect involve different, what is it, terms or factors. For example, when it is dealing with psychological aspect, then it is related to learner age, motivation, confidence, and so on. Then sociocultural deals with factors such as students' background, collaboration, Western, non-Western related issues. Then political deals with opportunities, choices, decisions, freedom, and teacher-centeredness. And the last technical aspect deals with facilities of learning. Here, I'd like to share one aspect that become part of the findings of this study, which is the technical aspects. In the questionnaire, the technical aspects involve or includes 7 items that the teachers perceive by choosing the choices, whether they strongly agree, disagree, unsure, or agree or strongly agree. The first item in the technical aspect, majority of teachers or of the participants agree that independent study in the library is an activity which develops learner autonomy. And then in the second item, a majority of the teachers also agree with that. The autonomy can help can develop most effectively through learning outside the classroom. But on statement number 3, that learner autonomy means learning without a teacher. Not many teachers agree with this statement. So they perceive that learner autonomy is not associated with learning without teachers. Yeah, this is their understandings about learner autonomy. Then statement number 4 to number 7, the majority of them agree with this, except statement number 5, that learner autonomy requires the learner to be totally independent of the teacher. Still, quite a big percentage of the respondents are unsure about this. Not majority of them agree that learner autonomy requires the learner to be totally independent of the teacher. It is relevant with the previous one that they still need teacher. Then the findings related to teachers' perception toward the feasibility and desirability for promoting learner autonomy in language learning. Here we've got 2 aspects associated with that, which is learner involvement in decision making related to learning components or learning aspects, such as learning objectives, learning materials, etc., as you can see on the first column. And then feasibility and desirability for students to have abilities to identify their own needs, identify their own strengths, and so on. All these are abilities that are associated with capacity of learner autonomy. So we'll see here whether teachers perceive that it is feasible or it is desirable for students to have these abilities. Then in the next slides later, I'll show the results of or the output of data analysis using WinStep software. Yeah, particularly for the item measure, whether it's which item or which component is considered as the most feasible or most desirable. Here we go. As you can see here on the left, we've got the output of the data analysis using WinStep. In the fourth column, it is the locate, what is it, score that indicates the degree of the feasibility and desirability. As you can see here, on the on the right column, I show the results that on the top of the list, it is the learning components that has the highest feasibility. So teachers perceive that involving students in decision making related to learning tasks and activities got the highest visibility. So teachers perceive that it is possible to involve students in learning tasks and activities, followed by the next components like learning topics, learning materials, and so on, until the least visible one is learning objectives. So it is considered as what is it, least feasible for teachers to involve students in determining the learning objectives. Then the feasibility for students to have a range of abilities associated with autonomy. Then the same thing as an interpretation of this, what is it, output of the data analysis using WinStat. On the right part, I provided the list of the degrees of feasibility for students to have range of ability associated with autonomy. From the top is the most feasible one. So teachers perceive that it is feasible for students to have, or sorry, to have the ability to learn cooperatively. So teachers believe that, and it is on the top of the degree of feasibility. Then to learn independently, to identify their own weaknesses, to identify their own strengths, to identify their own needs, to monitor their own learn progress, and the least feasible one is to have the ability to evaluate their own learning. So it what is it is considered as least feasible for students to have the ability to evaluate their own learning. Yeah, it needs more, what is it, a student's capacity to be able to do that. Then teachers see that as not that feasible. Then desirability to involve students in decisions making related to classroom learning. The teachers, the degrees of desirability stated by the teachers, yeah, the students involved in the decision making relating to teacher method is considered as what is it, the one with highest desirability, sorry. So it's with the highest desirability, then followed by classroom management, learning task activities, learning objectives, and so on. And the least desirable one is the learning materials. The last part related to desirability is dealing with this, students to have a range of abilities associated with learner autonomy. Then it is still perceived that students can be involved in, that students are having the abilities to learn cooperatively, and it's perceived as the most desirable factor. Then to learn independently, we see that it is consistent with the previous one about the feasibility. So it is feasible and it is desirable as well. Then to learn independently, to identify their own weaknesses, to identify their own needs, and the least desirable one is for students to have the ability to identify their own strengths. You can still see it is consistent with the feasibility. All right, then the extent teachers promotes learner autonomy. From the interview we could gain information or get teachers perception that actually teachers believe that their teaching activities already involve aspects that were actually supportive in promoting learner autonomy. Yeah, they perceive that their teaching practices have showed that they played roles in providing guidance, yeah, giving stimulus or stimuli of learning. So they stimulate their students, in particular when then they can then get their students to learn more autonomously. Then motivating learners, as motivation has things to do with students or with the learner autonomy, and then when they motivate students to learn, yeah, involving different aspects, for example, raising their what is interest with learning, their engagement, yeah, then it means they have worked on promoting learner autonomy. And then the challenges of promoting learner autonomy as perceived by the teachers, one of the challenges is students' low English proficiency levels. Yeah, teachers still saw this factor as hindering the promotion of learner autonomy. And then students' lack of motivations, and they perceive or they thought that students' lack of motivation also hindered this promotion of autonomy. And then teachers' lack of comprehension on learner autonomy, yeah, and they realize or they acknowledge that their like comprehension of learner autonomy becomes what is it, the challenge that they need to work on. And then the last one is the teachers who still teach with traditional method of teaching, that they thought it didn't what is it raise students engagement in learning. I think those are all the findings that we like to share in this presentation, and the conclusion will be stated will be continued by Bu Yani. Please, I'm Yani. Please unmute the microphone.
Well, okay, sorry. Well, my colleague have already explained in detail the result of our research. It's about the learner autonomy. So it can be concluded that from the all explanation, it can be concluded that the teachers have different perspective, different perception towards the learner autonomy. The second one, English teachers' professional development should take into account, should be considered that teachers' understanding of learner autonomy and how to foster it among the learners. So it is very important for the teacher to know about it. And then the effort to foster learners' autonomy should take into account either to the implementation of the curriculum or to the implemented curriculum and educational content. And then it is important to remember that the teachers can integrate their understanding about the learner autonomy to the classroom activities. So we can help the learners to be more independent in their own learning, so it can be successful in their study. I think that's all, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for sharing the result of our research. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.